All right, Chris. What should we expect from Case Keenum in his first playoff game? Because I felt like for the last, let's call it 13 games of the season, we kept saying, what do we expect from Case Keenum this week and this week and this week? Well, now the guy got the team to the playoffs, or the team got the guy to the playoffs. And Case Keenum, here he is. What do you expect from him?
Well, if you look at the numbers in the head-to-head matchup between Case Keenum and Drew Brees,
What's your numbers say,
total
big
QBR, I mean, Case Keenum has the better numbers with total QBR. If you look at it in situations.
Man, we should have had you on a blind reveal.
Listen, against the blitz, outside of the pocket and play action, you name it, Case Keenum's numbers are better than Drew Brees.
Love Cris
But
Carter.
I'm not going to sit here and ignore the fact that Case Keenum doesn't have any playoff starts. CC, you know this time of year, experience matters. And we saw that play out in that Rams-Falcons matchup, not only from the player perspective, but the coaching perspective. Experience matters in terms of not making the critical errors. I know Case Keenum has taken care of the football in large part this season, only 7 interceptions. He had 20 touchdowns. He's performed very well in terms of the situation that he had to step into. But when I'm looking at this matchup, I can't ignore the fact that Drew Brees has a decided advantage in terms of playoff starts. He's got a better offensive line, even though they're going to be down Andrews Pete. He's got a better running game than Case Keenum has. And when you look at the defenses in terms of scoring, they're pretty much evenly matched. So I'm looking at this to be a close ball game. And in a close ball game, I think experience matters, situational football, third down, red zone. I got to give the edge to Drew Brees.
I do not think there's a path to victory for the Vikings that does not include Case Keenum playing great. I don't think they can win this game the way they've won a lot of games this year, which is amazing defense, great running game, don't kill us quarterback. Like, Case played better than that, as you mentioned. Like, Case, since week 11, second-ranked passer in the league, 11 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's played really well, but they haven't needed that most of those games. They've been. I don't think they can beat the Saints off the strength of just this awesome defense and the running game. I think Case is going to have to play a really good football game. I don't think he has to go touch for touch with Drew Brees, but he's got to be within reaching distance of what Drew Brees does. And that is, it's a lot to ask of anyone, much less a guy who started this year as their second-string quarterback.
Yeah, this is no blind reveal, but let's just play this little game. Let's imagine Cam Newton last week in New Orleans. Imagine he had the skilled players. I'm talking about all of them. The Vikings running backs, the Vikings wide receivers. The tight ends are interchangeable, you know, because they're about the same ability.
Right.
Both of them been hurt, both of them, but Rudolph is coming back from a week bye. So he's going to be moving a little bit faster.
Vikings offensive line.
Yeah, so
the whole thing.
which group would you rather have? And do you think New Orleans would be playing this week if he had the same group?
No, I don't.
Because you mentioned
I think
Thielen.
Carolina would have won. If Cam had the Vikings' offensive weapons, is what you're saying, would Carolina have won that football game? I think they would.
Right. So not only did the Vikings change their 5 starting offensive linemen from last year, 4 new starters, all 5 new positional starters, but also their skilled guys don't get enough credit. Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, they have gotten it done for the Vikings. You're talking about contested throws, tight throws. They're one of the best in the NFL as far as making those type of plays. So you don't look at them as down the field, big play wide receivers, but they've been able to do it, and they've been able to help Case out. Case has the benefit of playing at home, sleeping in the hotel right downtown. The crowd noise, it's going to be incredible. My daughter works for the Vikings. They have sold out everything in Minnesota. At the Timberwolves game last night, people like the Timberwolves, but that's a Vikings town. And they know that they could be the first team ever that the first weekend in February, they could be playing a home game that happens to be the Super Bowl. And I believe that will be the impetus, because this could be the Vikings' last home game. Philadelphia has the #1 seed. Unless they lose. Vikings fans know that, and it's always been a huge advantage in Minnesota. Now, some people say the noise is manufactured noise.
I don't, because y'all pipe it in.
I don't know. It's my job to play on the field.
Is that Monterey's job? Is she the one that pipes in
No, she's a part of the foundation and everything.
What does that even? So we hear so much about crowd noise, and besides the obvious, like throwing off snap counts and whatnot, what does crowd noise do to the opposition?
It doesn't let you think. It makes teams have to hurry up. And in sports, there's so much to communication that you have to do. And when you negate the communication, or you make a team a little antsy, and you have playoff anxiety. All right? The crowd noise increases that anxiety because instead of what coverage are we in, Chris? You're always yelling.
You are already stressing me out.
No, you're always
stressed out, Chris Canty. I'm stressed out.
You're always yelling. And you know, man, if we don't get the lead, man, this crowd's going to get in the game. So not only are you fighting opposition, you know that the crowd is a part of it.
Especially when you have a veteran quarterback that has the autonomy that Drew Brees does, when Sean Payton gives him the latitude to be able to make those checks at the line of scrimmage. When that crowd noise gets going and you got second and long,
and
third
it's a
and long,
smart crowd. They know if you're audible, they start getting louder.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the one thing you do worry about with the New Orleans Saints in terms of being able to communicate. That's why you have to have an emphasis on nonverbal communication and the coaching staff wanting to go indoors and pipe in the music to force your offense to get used to that type of environment. But you can't simulate that, and you can't simulate playoff football. You can't simulate that type of atmosphere. The one thing I will say is that's why I give Drew Brees the advantage. Case Keenum has never seen playoff football before as a starter.
So here's what's interesting. Case Keenum has never seen playoff football. But Case Keenum's in a very interesting spot because he might have been having individually playoff games the better part of the last 2 months. Since Teddy Bridgewater came back, since we had people telling Cris Carter, short leash on Case, he's playing great, but this is, you don't know how, Teddy's right there. Since everyone saw the support Teddy has and that Teddy was healthy enough to play, Case was playing for his job. Week 12, 13, 14. He didn't really secure it until week 15, the game against Cincinnati where they won 34-7. Does that apply at all? Like, in your opinion, even though it's not playoff experience, it's maybe a close simulation of it for him individually, the pressure he's going to be under in this game?
I don't think so because the Minnesota Vikings pretty much wrapped up their division early in December. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying in terms of playing for his job, but you could play that game with the New Orleans Saints because they were fighting for the last 3 weeks to make sure that they were able to host a home playoff game.
Yes.
So their whole team had that sense of urgency.
But we're not worried. But it's not like Brees needed the experience, though, is my point. Like, Case, this was the only way Case could have gotten anything close to that experience. And maybe it doesn't apply because it's not a lose-and-go-home scenario. Just for him individually, I wonder if having a ton of pressure on him going into a game, if he learned something from the last 2 months of the year.
Yeah, something that might create more pressure. The last 2 weeks, the Vikings are on the bye. Sam Bradford, he's practicing with the Vikings. So I don't believe it's pressure. I believe it will help because in the first game of the season, Sam Bradford played unreal. And I believe there will be information that Sam can transfer the Case that will be beneficial in the game.
Wouldn't that be something if the whole season we talked about Case Keenum losing his job to Teddy, and now it's going to be maybe Case Keenum loses his job to Sam Bradford, who lost his job to Keenum, who lost his
but then Sam Bradford, what? He gets another bruise and has to have another
second bone bruise. You can't have 2 amputations. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.